Hi, everybody. Welcome to another social media live stream here at One on One. We're streaming on LinkedIn, Twitter, and on YouTube. And it's a pleasure to have all of you here. I'm Christine McLean Lewis, and I am one of the marketing managers at One on One. And today I have with me the gorgeous, lovely, effervescent Simmone Bowe, and she is a leadership strategist and HR consultant who has many years of experience in the learning and development industry. And she's here to talk to us about tips for training staff at all levels of growth. And I know a lot of you who own businesses, a lot of you who are HR managers, one of your biggest struggles is creating training programs that actually target the needs of everybody within your organization because people are so diverse. So Simmone is here to help us out with that, give us some tips. And I'm so excited for this conversation, so excited to have her here. So to start, I'm going to allow Simmone to introduce herself and, let us know a little bit more about her background. So Simmone, over to you.
Thank you very much, Christine. It's so good to be here with you and with your audience. And I think you did a great job introducing me. But just to fill in a little bit, yes, the majority of my career I've spent in learning and development, transitioning from a high school educator into the career and vocational space, which was really what whet my appetite for corporate training.
Awesome.
And from there, I went into being a generalist in HR
Okay.
proper. But, there's nothing that can beat learning and development. So no matter how far I stray, I never get far away from learning and development. And
Right.
I found that it has really added to holding generalist roles,
Mm-hmm.
because it gives you such a good understanding of the development of people and how important it is in the growth of an organization. And so learning and development has certainly been a passion of mine. I've been majority of my career has been in hospitality and tourism. But
Awesome.
yes, indeed, that
We
is
love
my,
that here in Jamaica. We love that. We love that.
oh yes, here too. So it's my heart, my everything. It's hospitality and tourism. But I've had some forays into public sector as well as now healthcare. So
Okay.
it's very interesting. The needs are so similar, even though you cross industries. So it's very interesting to see that crossover.
That's quite interesting. And I'm sure the audience is hearing your accent and wondering where you're from. No, she's not from Jamaica, guys.
No, no, no. And I won't even pretend to do a little accent, I don't want to offend you before we get started. Everybody, like to do, yeah, man. Like,
So true.
right? So I am actually from the Bahamas. I'm from the
Oh,
Bahamas.
yes.
And I actually was born in the US, but I've never lived in the US aside from a couple of years of
Okay.
university. So I've been groomed and raised in the Bahamas for my entire life.
Awesome. And Bahamas is such a beautiful collection of islands. It's a really
Yeah.
beautiful space. I hope to visit there one day.
You
And I
must.
hope our audience is excited to hear from someone from another Caribbean country, bringing another perspective and really helping us to understand what the Caribbean experience is like. So, Simone, while we get into our discussion, thank you so much again for introducing yourself, by the way. While we get into the discussion, I'm going to ask the audience to just let us know where they're watching us from. So whether you're watching on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, where are you watching us from? Tell us the parish, tell us the country if it's not Jamaica, and let us know what you love about learn and development. So we want to hear from you guys. And while we're waiting for those comments to come through, I'm going to be starting off this discussion with a very important question. And as I mentioned before, in all organizations, we have a diverse range of needs because all humans are different, all humans have different needs, different education levels, all of these sorts of things. So, Simone, what tips would you suggest to help HR leaders create unique learning paths for each employee?
Yeah, this is a very, very important topic
Mm-hmm.
because first of all, diversity is so vast, and we have to understand really that we have multiple generations in the workplace now. As you
Definitely.
mentioned, we have persons with varying levels of academic qualifications,
Mm-hmm.
ranging from no formal education to very little formal education, certifications and no degree, or several degrees and certifications. Like, we're all working together. We also have people with varying abilities, right?
Yes,
So you may
definitely.
have people with learning disabilities, or we call neuro differences, and other just ways of learning and processing information. And
Mm-hmm.
so it creates now a very unique opportunity for learning and development professionals to how do we address all of these various types of learners in our organization. So
Right.
some tips would be to really look at, first of all, in your recruitment process,
Mm-hmm.
right? Trying to identify from the get-go where people's levels are at. So I noticed that people are focusing more on pre-employment testing.
Okay.
So looking at personality, but also
Mm-hmm.
looking at capability, whether that is literacy, numeracy, technological skills.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people testing for being able to use Microsoft Suite, right? And depending on what the role is and
Mm-hmm.
what the skill sets that are required, primarily because sometimes people aren't as honest on their
So
resume.
true. So true.
And so they can embellish, have
Mm-hmm.
inflated views,
Mm-hmm.
inflated views of their capability. And so one tip would be to really find out from the get-go what's the demographic of people coming into the organization, what
Mm-hmm.
skill sets are they coming in with, because that will help you now to tailor what types of programming you will need moving forward.
Interesting.
Because for some people, it may be we need to go as basic as literacy, helping people to learn how to read. It's as
Mm-hmm.
basic as that. Or you may have some people, I've seen this, where you may offer professional development, short courses, micro learning, as I think we will talk about a bit more. But you have some people that I want more. Some people who are thinking, this has whet my appetite. And so now
Right.
I would like to get a degree. I want to go back to school. And so,
Mm-hmm.
as an organization, you have to start thinking about what are we going to offer in house? What are we going to support as a benefit to employees? What will that criteria be? What will the policy be around that? Right? So you
Mm-hmm.
have things like educational assistance, tuition reimbursement, educational grants, scholarships, right? Are we going to help people to continue their education or to get a particular certification, especially if these are people with critical skills and you want to retain them?
Right.
The
Like tech
organization.
people.
Yes. So I think that that's really important. I think also having a learning management system will help, because to try to do this manually, especially if you are a medium or large organization, you're dealing with a lot of employees, that learning, hey, shameless plug, but that learning management system can actually help you to
Mm-hmm.
create those learning paths, to help you to populate the appropriate training and courses that persons would need to take at those various levels.
Got you. And there's so much to unpack in what you just said. But one of the things that stood out to me the most is the fact that there's going to be a lot of budgetary support needed for something like this. And oftentimes, one of the budgets that gets slashed tremendously is the HR budget, whether it's through firing people to reduce the expenses on the workforce or through cutting the L&D budget, whatever it is.
Yeah.
How would you suggest small businesses in particular adjust their budgets to accommodate creating these learning paths based on everything that you just said?
Yeah. Smaller companies have to get creative.
Mm-hmm.
And so typically their budgets may not allow for them to have someone full time,
Right.
reality, or you may not have the budget to have a learning management system,
Okay.
depending,
Right.
right?
Depending. Mm-hmm.
Depending, because there are very robust systems out there now that's catering to persons with small budgets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people recognize the importance of learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest um, partnering with various entities to
Okay.
get you the results that you need. So whether that's a learning consultant, a trainer, like a
Right.
freelance trainer,
Mm-hmm.
or some learning professional. And you have to be careful with who you select now. I mean, you have to make sure that they have a track record and they're not just trying to milk you because there are people out there,
True.
aspiring
Yeah.
motivational speakers, I want to get out there and make this big money on the speaking platform. This is not public speaking. You use public speaking skills when you
Mm-hmm.
are a platform trainer, but
Mm-hmm.
training is a very unique skill set, and you need to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that people are crafting the kind of content that will help you to get your employees to perform better.
Right.
It's not about just exciting them and motivating them. Learning will do that in and of itself. And if you have a great trainer, they will make sure that it's dynamic, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll make sure that, people will have fun as they learn. But the key thing is we want that learning to translate into changed behavior, into an improved performance. So
Right.
when you are looking for a training consultant or a freelance company, maybe that specializes in that, you want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they can prove a track record of producing training that will
Mm-hmm.
actually get results, because that's why a lot of people feel like training doesn't work, because you get someone who can be all, very dynamic and exciting as a speaker, but
Right.
they haven't drilled down on those areas that you need them, your employees, to improve in their behaviors, in their performance. So that's one thing. uh,
Mm-hmm.
Partnering with local or international training schools,
Mm-hmm.
vocational schools, career education, um, universities. And then you have platforms like LinkedIn and other places that are offering um, training programs that, but very bite-sized type things. And you have
Mm-hmm.
other platforms out there as well, learning management systems that have content or that offer short courses. That's very reasonable. And so I would say for small business owners, think about the cost of not training,
Right.
because you will end up spending more if
Mm-hmm.
you do not focus on training and developing your staff. So
Mm-hmm.
look at a budget that you could be comfortable with per employee, and you may decide, well, we'll cap it off and say, well, we have 50 employees, and we're going to give a budget of maybe $300 for line staff, $500 for supervisory staff,
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 for management,
Mm-hmm.
an
Mm-hmm.
annual budget, right? So, and that can include conferences, because that's also a way of learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? It can be memberships in professional associations,
Mm-hmm.
certifications, degree programs, whatever that employee may want to apply those funds toward. And that way, you have a set amount of money that, I've set this aside just for learning and development, and making sure that you touch the entire organization.
And I like how you're speaking about learning and development from a broad sense, like encompassing different forms of learning and different approaches to learning. Because you have those traditional face-to-face interactions where you attend the conferences or you have the in-person sessions within a company, those type of things. But there's another component as well that also helps with creating long-term knowledge retention and helps with giving people access to training anytime, anywhere. And that's the online training component, which I'd want to dive into a bit more, because with online training, you can create a financially feasible training program for your staff that aligns with their learning paths, their learning goals, while also aligning that with the face-to-face training that you're going to be doing for them as well. So with online training, what tips would you give to make online training as effective as possible for people at various levels of growth, especially those who aren't technologically savvy?
Yeah, now this is a tough one because we don't want the technology itself to be a barrier.
Right,
So we have to be very patient with people as they get over their fears of the technology first.
right.
So perhaps your training may need to start on how to use the technology. And it may sound very basic, but it's very necessary because people who are afraid of it, they think they're going to break it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
True, true,
Literally.
true.
You think, I'm going to break the internet. I'm going to cause this computer to explode.
Right.
Right? You're going to really know that I am incompetent. And no one wants to feel like that. That's how people,
Right.
I'm exaggerating a bit, but that's how people feel.
That's also people really think for true though.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And I've seen people like that. And I've seen people who have that fear. They need a lot of hand holding,
Mm-hmm.
so the instructional video doesn't work for them, right?
Got
Oh,
you.
this is how to, for a millennial or Gen Z, that may be easy. Okay, let me watch this little 30-second video and I'm going to follow each step and whoop, I'm good. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to work for everyone. And so some people need you to actually walk them through it step
Mm-hmm.
by step to make sure that they get comfortable with the technology. So that's what I would encourage. First off, before throwing anybody into an online course, let's make sure how comfortable are you with the technology, and let's get you comfortable. Let's get
Right.
you feeling good about using this tool
Mm-hmm.
help you to grow. And this is not to show you up. This is not. So a lot of it is esteem work that you may have to do, mindset work that you
Yeah.
may have to do first,
Mm-hmm.
right? In order to introduce and engage people with the technology. And then you want to be very strategic. This is one of the things that I've seen as a downfall with learning. So we
Okay.
may get some feedback from staff. Maybe we did a survey, or maybe we're hearing from people, these are some issues that are going on at work. And so we throw a course.
So true. You don't think that the course can fix everything. That's a band-aid to fix everything.
That
Yeah.
will fix everything. It's like throwing pasta against the wall and let's see what will stick.
Right.
Training cannot work well that way. It has to be strategic. So I was so happy with when I heard you say, that you have to have multiple ways of reinforcing the learning.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't expect for them to go to this in-person workshop and then be completely transformed. So when they come in on Monday, I am the superhero manager because I went to that one day program that they hosted
Right.
over there, right? And so now
Like, it's like that. I'm good to go.
I'm ready. I'm ready to manage people. No, you're not ready.
Right.
So you need to be able to be supported. The learning has to be reinforced because
Mhm.
we're human and we are bombarded by information in our lives. We're
Yep.
not going to remember everything. We
Right.
have to practice, it has to be reinforced. And so the online learning is an excellent way to now bring in perhaps additional learning
Mm-hmm.
or refreshers,
Mm-hmm.
to test people as they go along to see, what do you remember from this concept? What do you need to go on? And then from the online learning, you can have discussion groups, right? You
Yep.
can create little cohorts. And
Mm-hmm.
then this now adds even to the organizational culture that can help to make it a learning culture, and they are comfortable with working with each other, especially if they are, interdepartmental groups.
Mm-hmm.
It helps them with bonding and getting to know and supporting each other. So there's so many benefits,
Right, right.
but you have to have multiple ways to reinforce the learning.
Agree 100%. And before we get even deeper into this discussion, I just want to bring the audience into what we're seeing and what we're talking about. Earlier, I had asked where people are tuning in from, and Rory Rudy said that he's tuning in on YouTube from Kingston, Jamaica. Hi, Rory. Good to have you. And Odane is tuning in from YouTube from Manchester. Hi, good to have you guys. And what I want to do now is to ask the audience if they have any questions about how to train their own staff who have different learning needs, different challenges within the organization. And one of the important things that Simmone said a while ago is that you can't use training and learning as a band-aid to cover the issues within your organization. And you can't use training to create instantaneous results. So, with all of those things said, what challenges do you, the audience, have with creating a training program that has a lasting impact? Let us know in the comments, ask us some questions, and Simone is ready and willing to answer them. So while we wait for those questions to come in, Simone, one of the other benefits of online learning, which is something that you kind of alluded to earlier, is micro learning. And what micro learning is, it's bite-sized content that helps to impart a particular concept or topic in a way that helps people to retain more information. So you're not going to have videos, for instance, that are longer than 5 to 10 minutes, or you're not going to have an entire course that's longer than 5 to 10 minutes, or a particular module in a course that's longer than 5 to 10 minutes. So with micro learning, how valuable do you think it is to enhancing the training experience?
I think it's extremely valuable. And I think this is why some more formal or traditional modes of education struggling, right? I think because we can go online, and as you mentioned, I can either go on to micro learning, a course,
Mm-hmm.
and I can complete a course in 1 hour watching a series of 5-minute videos, or
Right.
a 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, right? And then I've committed to that time frame. I don't have to do it all at once. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I only have about 10 or 15 minutes to spare, but I can complete maybe 3 or 4 modules in that time frame, and then I can tap into it again. So
Right.
it allows people who may be strapped for time to still get the learning that's needed for their particular roles. And I can tell
Mm-hmm.
you this is so good for people who are in management, but also for people who are in operations,
Yeah.
people who are working, those shift type jobs or things where it's difficult to have pull them away from the floor, so to speak, right? Where they have to be in the operation and focus on what they're doing. And they may not have time to go and sit in a 4 hour in-person workshop. But
Correct.
maybe we can provide them 30 minutes in a day to sit and, log into this app or go onto this website, and you're
Mm-hmm.
able to complete a course. So I think it's a very wonderful tool to get people learning on demand, to that it can satisfy all needs. They're learning and the operation doesn't suffer.
Right.
And this, we see it all the time. People go on YouTube, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll just go on YouTube and I'll figure it out. I'll see, and there are tons of resources on there. It's similar, right? In 5, 10, 15 minutes, I've gotten a body of knowledge that I didn't have before.
Right, right, right. And I love that you mentioned YouTube. YouTube is such a a great resource of information, but at the same time, the information can be very disjointed if it's not structured. So that's why it's good to have a learning management system that actually helps you to structure your content. Whether you're using YouTube videos or you're using your own content or you're pulling from a library of courses, you need a structured way to give the content to your employees and also to do the reporting that's necessary to make it work. So it looks like Simmone dropped off of the call. Probably her internet is having issues. But I just wanted to, again, as the audience, if you have any questions regarding training yourself at all levels of growth or all levels within the organization. Because we mentioned earlier that there are some people who aren't techie, and Simmone gave some feedback on that, what you can do in those situations. We also mentioned that you have people who have different responsibilities within the organization. So you have operating officers, chief operating officers, for example, people in the operations department. You also have people who are in managerial positions and don't have a lot of time. How do you accommodate all of these people? So are there any questions related to training staff at all levels? And I'd love to hear where you guys are tuning in from still. I remember that Rory and Odane mentioned that they're tuning in from Kingston and from Manchester. Loving that. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Oh, Simmone is back. Let me put her back in. At stream. We lost you for a minute there, Simmone.
No, I'm so sorry about that.
That's fine.
Oh,
I was just
Lord.
asking the audience again if they had any questions, but I don't see any questions coming through. But you were speaking about the micro learning and how important that is and how it makes training accessible. I don't know if you have any other points that you want to add to that.
No, but I like what you said about having structure, because it goes back to um, the point that we were talking about earlier about just not having training as a random activity.
Right.
I think we have to get past this random approach of let's
It
just
doesn't
throw
work.
a course at it, let's just
Yeah.
send them to this thing and it's gonna fix them,
Mm-hmm.
because people need, there's something in training that we call training transfer, right?
Okay.
You want people to get to apply what they learn. So it's
Mm-hmm.
one thing to get in the classroom and get the information, but the proof, as they say, the proof of the pudding, as they say, is in the eating. It
Yep.
is, how do we get them to apply that information? And then
Mm-hmm.
once they apply the information, do we now see a change in behavior, in performance, in results?
And I have a question related to that. But before I go to my question, Rory from YouTube is asking more about tips for training busy operation managers. So, what tips would you give to train those very busy people?
Oh boy, that group is such a difficult group because they are always so busy.
Yeah.
And they are. I'm not taking it away from them at all. They are, and I think they have so much on their plate that they're not always as appreciated as they um,
True.
should be. The
True.
danger with that is, because of that, the need to have them in the operation, oftentimes they are not adequately prepared. So now we get ourselves in a catch 22, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we push them into the operation, we need them in there, they're working in it, but they're not as effective as they can be because
Right.
we have not trained them in their areas of need.
Right.
So we need, I would recommend really a leadership development program for busy
Mm.
operational leaders. And what do I mean by that? Again, a systematic approach. The micro learning, I think, is very important for that group because,
Mm-hmm.
again, they're on the go. So maybe they're able to, on a lunch break or on a weekend or whenever they're off or whatever, they can log in and do 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and they're getting something in. But I
Right.
also think this group needs to be mentored. So you have to look at ways that you can pull them. They
Mm-hmm.
need support. They
Mm-hmm.
need to understand how to operate in this the operation using really HR skills, right? So a lot of people are thrust into management because they have great technical skills in the job that they perform, but
Right.
it's the people management that can create a lot of the challenge for them.
Right.
How do I lead people? How do I deal with difficult personalities? How do I navigate conflict? How do
Mm-hmm.
I talk about performance and review performance and give feedback? How do I coach someone who's struggling, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
all of these things that take up so much of their time, but then they're not given the tools they need to address them. So they have to be pulled out of the operation, even if it's only an hour or whatever it may be, however bite sized it may be, 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes, something, so that they can get the support that they need to execute at optimum levels.
I agree with you 100%. And that goes back against the point of having a learning management system, because when you give them these micro learning modules, having the learning management system store the courses in a structured way, allow them to track their progress, allow you to see their progress and to determine whether they're actually engaging with the content. All of these things form an important part of ensuring that learning actually takes place and makes it easier for you to do the reporting and the data analysis necessary to make your program as effective as possible. So learning management system is really important.
Mhm.
So Rory, I hope that Simmone answered your question. You can let us know in the comments if you want further clarity. But we're going to move on to the next question. Why is it important, Simmone, to actively engage high achievers in training programs? Because that's another group, another, you know, group of concern sometimes in organizations.
Mhm. It is important because you want high achievers to stay.
Yeah.
You want high achievers to stay in your organization, to continue to contribute, to have a long term plan for them
Hmm.
so that they can see where their growth and advancement is going to be. Because guess what? People with skills, people who are qualified and talented will be highly sought after.
Definitely.
And they are usually always interested in their growth and development.
Hmm.
So a high achiever, even though they may have a degree maybe or a certification,
Hmm.
that's the type of person that's going to want another one. They want to
Yes.
be engaged
Hmm.
mentally. They
Hmm.
want to know that they're being challenged. They want
Hmm.
to know that they are growing and that they're preparing themselves for advancement or that they are advancing. This is
Hmm.
why you shouldn't get turned off when a high achiever comes in an interview and asks, what are the advancement opportunities? What are the
Yep.
opportunities for growth and development? These are the questions that people are asking from the interview.
Right.
We
Especially
can't
millennials and Gen Z.
Yes, we can't
Hmm.
be turned off by that. We
Right.
have to now adjust our cultures to recognize that these people want to contribute and they want to grow as they contribute. They're
Right.
not going to be these sold out, blindly loyal to the organization and not get anything in return. That's
Yeah.
not going to happen. Those
Nothing
days are done.
done and dusted. Done and
Done
dusted.
and dusted. I love that. I can
Mhm.
use that. So high achievers need to be engaged. And these are the people who I think are prime to really sell training programs, right?
Mhm.
Because they're going to be in it to win it. They're going to be in it to achieve. They're going to complete the course
Yes.
because they are achievers. And so that's going to be great, a great selling point, a great data to say that, you know what, we put this group, this cohort through this training and we had 80, 90% completion at this
Mhm.
level. And now we were able to check, 90 days down the road and we've seen a significant increase in XYZ, right? So I think that is the prime group that you should probably put through training.
And do you think that these high achievers too can become ambassadors for your employee training program?
Exactly. These are, yes, the ambassadors, the champions, the
Mhm.
pair learning, right? Getting them to now be train the trainers, get
Yeah.
them out into the field. And you know what? That person who may be a bit intimidated by the technology, having Christine come and sit with me may be a whole less daunting than sending me to a classroom where I'm
Hmm.
sitting in with 10 other people who are uncomfortable with technology and we're all trying to pretend that we're good.
Right.
And we're not.
And we're not.
Not okay. And so we're not going to be honest. We're not going to open up. We're not going to ask the questions that we need to unless you have a really great trainer who's going to make you feel comfortable to
Hmm.
do that. But high achievers you can use to train others. And it's
And
very
mentor.
non-threatening. Of course, if they have the right tool, you have to show them how to train because I think
Right.
sometimes not everyone can teach or
Right.
train. And so that is important as well, that they have the personality and the patience
Hmm.
to work with others. But I think they would be excellent advocates for training and ways to use them in the environment.
Agreed. Agreed 100%.
Mhm.
So another group that we need to consider, well, two different groups are actually. We have people who are just coming into an organization, new to their careers, those type of things. So you have that set of people, and then you have people who are more experienced and more seasoned in their careers and in organizations. How should or what are the differences between the training programs that you would do for the newbies to the organization, newbies to the career, and the experienced people? What are the differences between those training programs?
Yeah, well, I think everyone is on a level playing field when they're new to the organization.
Okay.
And so, whether they are experienced or not, everyone should go through a very robust orientation and
Mm-hmm.
onboarding program.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be a part of your learning experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
You should pay great attention to what you teach people when they walk in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Day one, they have to learn about the organization. They have to learn about the culture. They have to learn about the values. They have to learn about what's important to the organization. They have to learn about rules and regulations and expected conduct and performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that helps to set the tone for how they move through the organization. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first thing. That's the level playing field for everybody coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Moving from there, as we move through what we call that employee life cycle, you know um, persons who are new to working or new in
Yeah.
their careers, they
Right.
need a different body of knowledge than more seasoned workers. And I'm
Right.
finding that I'm hearing more and more leaders are struggling to lead Gen Zs or people who are very young and new to the world of work.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain things about um, just basic professional etiquette. Why do we work? What is expected of you, certain behaviors, how should you dress,
Mm-hmm.
the role of you and your cell phone, that relationship. so so they really need like a down home basics. This is what we expect coming in to this environment, coming into the workplace, and
Mm-hmm.
even learning how to work along with other people,
Right.
teamwork, how to ask for help if you're struggling, all of those types of things. Who do you go to for support and all of those things. Now, people who are now transitioning, getting their feet wet, they're settling in their career, maybe they're the people now who may need to go after certifications or learning a deeper dive into the nuances of their career choice, right? So maybe I
Mm-hmm.
have a basic body of knowledge. Maybe I got a diploma from a career school or an associate degree or a bachelor's degree, but I'm still new,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I find that a lot of people think that because they have a degree that they are experienced.
That
There's
is
a big
true.
difference. And I'm seeing it a lot in the HR profession. And I'm not knocking it because I think it's wonderful that people want to segue into the profession. And
Mm-hmm.
so they may already have a bachelor's degree, and so they get a master's degree in HR. But then with that master's degree, they come in and they think, well, I should be an HR manager. Like, what's your problem? I have a master's degree, right? But you don't have any experience.
Gotcha.
So as you are transitioning in your career or you're doing a career change,
Mm-hmm.
you want to get information that aligns with you getting relevant experience at the same time. So the
Mm.
training that you may have at someone at that level may be more experiential. These are the people that may benefit from shadowing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, simple as boss for a day, these types of experiences, because they need to now apply. Remember, we're talking about training transfer, apply
Right.
that knowledge. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you may have learned that theory, but now you need to put it into practice.
Right.
And as
Right.
you build your experience and you become more seasoned, now you get into that group where I'm maybe trying to transition into higher levels of leadership, or I'm trying to transition into leadership, or I want to master what I'm doing. Like, some people don't want to be a people manager. They
Mm-hmm.
prefer to be a process manager or what they call an individual contributor.
Mm-hmm.
I am not really managing anyone, but I'm an expert at what I do, so even those types of people require different types of training where
Mm-hmm.
they would benefit now from being a part of professional associations, going to conferences, because now they're networking and they're learning information that is real time.
Mm-hmm.
This is current, this is what's trending in the
Right.
area, and how can I now come back and apply this in what I'm doing.
Right.
And definitely, if they're in leadership, more leadership development. I can't say it enough. We don't can't do it enough. We need our leaders to be prepared at all levels. New leaders,
Mm-hmm.
middle management, senior leaders, executive level, C-suite leaders all need training, even though
Yep.
they may argue and say they don't. They do, because I have
Oh.
seen people who have risen to the levels of CEO, CFO, and they are still functioning like a team leader, like a new supervisor. How is it that a CEO still wants to interview, you know, people in entry level positions?
Yeah, that's that.
Just let
No.
that go, man. You hiring people to do that for you. If you can't
Exactly.
trust your
That's
HR,
the thing.
your
The trust.
hiring manners, yeah, trust them to hire
Mm-hmm.
the right people so you could deal with more strategic tasks. You
Right.
don't have to be in there trying to figure out, well, who is this person? I don't even know who you hired the other day. Who is that on the front desk? Who is that answering the phone? Come on, man. You know?
Yeah, yeah, you have to let go and trust. And as you said, the people need the training that will help them to become leaders that they should be at whatever level they're at.
Whatever
Really, really
level.
important. And
Absolutely.
yeah, everything that you're saying makes it so important for organizations to have an actual L&D manager, like somebody who is dedicated to learning and development within the organization, because it's so much
It's
that
a
needs to
lot.
be done. There's
A
so much
lot.
to consider. There's so many different training programs that you have to create, so many different training modalities that you have to use, so many needs that you have to service. So
Yes.
if you were to give somebody tips for hiring an L&D manager, or if they can't afford an L&D manager, what tips would you give them to make learning and development really an integral part of company culture?
I think that They need to, and I'm talking about the learning and development manager, people in that department. I
Mhm.
believe that they need to have some training in organizational learning
Okay.
or a certification in training.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many levels to this. Oh my goodness, because a lot of times people think that training is just the delivery, right? Being a platform trainer and having those skills.
Mm-hmm.
But the success of training is also in the preparation. So you have to be able to do your training needs assessment.
Mm-hmm.
You have to build relationships with your leaders in the organization so you can tap in to know exactly, what
Yes.
is needed. What are the
Right. What's the
critical
problem?
needs,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Mm-hmm.
critical skills that are needed
Mm-hmm.
so that you can now begin to strategically, and I keep saying this word, craft programs, activities, courses, whatever that may be, that would satisfy those needs and in the
Mm-hmm.
time frame. We've not even talked about, Christine, succession,
Yeah, that's a big one.
preparing people for their next, for their
Yes.
career transition,
Yes.
right? And,
Mm-hmm.
and and making sure that we have a pool of people who are ready to
Mm-hmm.
move, and what is their level of readiness.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that they're 1 year away, 2 years away, 3 years away? That will now require, what training needs do they have? So you need a learning and development manager who can think strategically,
Mm-hmm.
who will be able to research and analyze and then create. And you will find that some organizations, large organizations, would
Mm-hmm.
have people focusing on each of those functions.
Wow. So they have a manager for each of those learning and development functions.
I worked in an organization where I was the learning manager and we had a development manager. So
Oh,
I
interesting.
focused on, so it was the learning and development department. I was a
Interesting.
learning manager. We had a development manager. So I
Interesting.
focused on the training courses, creating
Mm-hmm.
the training, going and assessing and all of that, finding
Mm-hmm.
out what the needs were, and then
Mm-hmm.
coming up with training courses. And the development manager focused on leadership development, mentorship, cross training, like all of these other development opportunities. Now,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes our paths cross because if she created a program and she would say, well, there's a training element to this,
Mm-hmm.
would you create something for me to use in this development aspect? Some organizations may have someone that just focuses on what we call instructional design. They are just cranking out content.
Right.
You can see that now, right? Where companies just sell content,
Yep.
right? They could sell, we call off the shelf training.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the videos that you're talking about, the the quizzes and the all of the other things that are needed to build out a training program because it's time consuming.
Yep.
You may not be able to get all of this out of your learning and development manager.
Mm-mm. It's
So
too much.
you no, it's too much. So you have
Mhm.
to get the tools that this person would need to effectively execute learning and development in an organization.
Mhm.
And I just want to shout out my niece. She's tuning in
Oh,
all the
that's your
way from
niece.
Pittsburgh. Hi,
Can you say that name for me? Is that CC?
Siesta. Siesta.
Siesta. It's a pretty name.
Yes, it's very pretty. And Harold, thank you. Thank you for joining as well.
We appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for supporting Simone. And I love that you said, Sieska, that you're not an HR professional, but you have an appreciation for what Simone does. And I have an appreciation for what she does too, because it's boy, it's a lot.
It is a lot. And you know what? Sometimes I'm talking and I'm dreaming at the same time because
Wow.
it's challenging to find an organization that really buys into training and doing training well. Putting the resources behind it, the funding, the
Hmm.
talent, the people that's needed to execute, it just would be so dreamy.
To have that perfect organization, right?
Yes, but I've learned over the
Mhm,
years, my experiences have taught me that you make the most of what you have. So you
mhm,
don't get discouraged by what you don't have, but
mhm.
really take what you have and run with it and show them how important learning and development can be and is to the organization. People get inspired, people are motivated, people work better,
Yep.
you know less waste, less
Mhm,
absenteeism, more
mhm,
teamwork, less
mhm.
toxic environments when
Yep.
people really know what they're doing and they can be productive.
Yep. Agree 110%. And before we go into the final part of our discussion, which sums up everything that we would have spoken about today, I just want to let everybody know, because I know some people may not know exactly what one on one does, but one on one is a learning and development company in a sense. We offer a learning management system, and we also offer a library of 30,000 plus courses, ready-made courses. But we also have a content development team, as Simmone was mentioning earlier, as an L&D manager and HR manager. You can't create everything yourself. So we have a team that can actually create this content for you, and that team consists of instructional designers, people who have experience in training and can actually develop courses that will make sense for your team. So we have the learning management system, we have the ready-made courses, and we have our content development team, and all of these things come together. Whether you want them separately or you want them together, they all form a part of helping you create a training program for your organization that really helps people get excited, motivated, interested, and builds the the morale within your organization. It helps your organization grow. So just wanted to drop that in there to let everybody know that's what we offer. And Donald is saying that training is an everyday opportunity for organizations' growth and development, which is so true, Donald.
Very true.
Training is something that should be done daily in multiple ways, whether
Mhm.
you're using a learning management system or you're doing mentorship or you're doing experiential learning, as Simmone mentioned earlier. There are
Mhm.
so many ways to learn each and every day within an organization. And
Mhm.
that's why
And
it's so important to create that type of culture within your organization as well, where learning
exactly.
and development is a priority. It's very,
Exactly,
very
because you can
important.
even use your team huddles, your pre-shift meetings if you're in that type of environment, and it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out thing. You can
Yep.
focus on one particular thing and
Mm-hmm.
take 10 to 15 focused minutes. It doesn't cost you anything, but a little bit of time and a little bit of preparation, and you get people engaged. You can even get like those champions, those high achievers, to give them a moment to shine. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many different ways, as you mentioned, to just get learning in. You can
Yep.
do, the people give on the spot awards. I caught you in the act. I saw you implementing that particular thing that we trained on. I saw you
Awesome.
use the system. You
Right.
know, I'm going to give
Kudos.
you a Snickers bar, a thumbs up, a shout out in the HRIS system, or post it on the
Right.
bulletin board. It's just so many different ways to encourage people to learn, to recognize them, to reward them,
Mm-hmm.
incentivize them for embracing learning.
Yep. And that reward and recognition part is so important. It's so important to gamify, as we like to say in this
Yes.
in this space, gamify learning. And award points and badges and rewards. Just make the thing fun and interesting. Let people want to learn.
Yes.
Encourage the learning.
Yes, totally agree. I'm
Yep, yep.
definitely going to have to circle back to you, Christy. I was happy when you talked about what one-on-one does. I'm like, ooh, I need to talk to her. I need content.
We're ready. We're ready for you, Simone. We're ready for
I
you.
need lots of content.
All right, Simone. So this has been a fantastic discussion, and I just wanted us to wrap up by leaving the audience with just three big tips, three top tips that they should really consider if they want to create a comprehensive employee training program that serves all levels of staff, everybody within the organization. So over to you to those three tips for those three tips.
Thank you so much. Well, tip number one is to assess the needs of the organization. What are the training needs? What are the levels of the staff in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what they need to learn? So, current needs and future needs. So,
Mm-hmm.
being able to project forward and using your business strategy to say, well, in 2 years, in 5 years, this is where we see the organization going.
Mm-hmm.
What is the skill set, the tools that we need, the people that we need to take us to where we're going, and how can we start preparing them now for where we're going? So, assessment is critical to determine where you are. You can't move unless you know where you are,
Right.
and then you can create those proper strategies and solutions, and knowing how to identify what it is that we need. Right, the second thing would be to identify a learning and development partner. That's all I'm going to say. Whether that is a whether that is one-on-one, whether that is a consultant, whether that is a full-time manager, whether that's all of the above.
All
Get
of
your
the above.
full-time manager and one-on-one,
And one on one.
and your consultant, Simmone Bowe, and you will have a winning learning and development strategy.
There we go.
But in all seriousness, you need someone that's going to focus on this and push it to make it happen. It's not going to happen by itself. As you can
Mm-hmm.
tell from our conversation, I don't know at what point you may have joined us, but there's so much to this, to learning and growing in an organization. That would be my second tip. And then the third tip for me is to put the resources behind learning.
Yep.
Make learning a priority.
Mm-hmm.
As they say, put money where your mouth is. A lot of times we give lip service. We want people to change. We want service levels to
Mm-hmm.
change. We want performance to change. We
Mm-hmm.
want to make more money. Well, you got to spend some money
To
to
make
make
some
some
money.
money.
Yep.
So put the investment into training. And you may say, well, I don't have long dollars like some of these big corporations and big companies may have.
Right.
Find creative ways to make it happen. There's too many resources out there for you to not make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Too many resources. It's just, it really, you have no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
There is no excuse. There's for any budget. Because as I mentioned,
People just
I'm sure you have the capability in your organization. You have people
we
right in
do.
your organization who can train. You have companies like One on One in the Caribbean. Listen, y'all, we are in the Caribbean. I'm in the Bahamas.
Yep.
Christine is in Jamaica,
Jamaica.
and they're doing big things.
Yep. 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 And we'll continue to do big things. Yes.
Exactly. And so you may be worrying about, cultural relevance. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you have a regional company that can provide a context to the learning, because
Exactly.
of course there's, principles don't change.
Mm-hmm.
Principles don't change across cultures, but there are nuances
Yep.
that you're able to focus on that will help people to engage with the learning
Mm-hmm.
even better. And so those are the types of things that you need to consider. You want to know what's going on, get the state of the union, right? As they would say, what is going on in the organization? Get your finger on the pulse of what
Right.
is needed. Don't just sit around complaining about what's going wrong. Take a look at the data. What's the numbers? Get out
Right.
there and find out what's going on. Address those solutions. Have someone in the organization who's going to focus on that, whether that's internal or an external consultant, an organization that can help you create the kind of training programs that will meet the needs of your organization now and in the future. And don't be afraid to put the resources behind it. A one off annual seminar, y'all, is not going to do it.
No.
It's
It's not
not
gonna work.
going to do it.
Nope.
You send them to that conference, you send them to that workshop, and you expect them to be miraculously
Doesn't work
transformed.
like that.
It's not going to work. People need ongoing reinforcement.
Yep.
It's like riding a bike. And this is the last point that I'll make. It's like
Mhm.
riding a bike. There's a period where you not only have to have the training wheels, but you also need that loved one that's holding on the seat
Yep.
and showing you what to do. Pedal,
Pushing you
push
along,
you
you know?
forward.
Helping you out.
I have a little one at home, and we go to the park, and she wants to get on the swing, and I used to have to tell
Oh.
her when she was younger, well, you got to kick your leg out and
Right.
swing back if you want to go high, right? You got to
Right.
show them how to do it, and they'd be like, "Mama, push me," and then you got to push them, and there comes a point where you don't have to push them. You're behind them, but they don't realize that
Because they're
they're doing it on their own. And that is the
right.
level of mastery that you get to when you train, you support, you coach, you retrain.
Mhm.
As they say, you have to learn, unlearn, relearn
Mhm.
in order to get to that place of mastery of something. And too often, we want to just throw people out there, go learn it, figure it out, make it happen. We say all these nice buzzwords in
Yep.
corporate. It's not helping people to perform better.
Not at all. Because they don't feel supported, they don't feel valued, they just feel like, ah,
Deflated. They
yep.
feel that I'm not able to grasp what I need. I was talking with a friend who joined a new organization, and he said the learning curve has taken so long
Hmm.
because there's no training. There's
Wow.
absolutely no training.
Just left on their own.
Left on their own. Who does that? In the name of saving money? And then you have retention issues because people who can't fight with it till they figure it out will leave
Yeah.
because
Yep.
they feel stressed out. They
Yep.
know they're not incompetent, but they just feel like they can't get their brains around what's going on because they don't have the information, the support that they need to really perform at their maximum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So true. Learning and development, everyone, is critical, crucial, must be a part of your organization. It's not a nice to have, it's a must have. So I loved all of the points that Simone brought up today. And I really appreciate her taking the time to be with us. Simone, you mentioned that you do consultation. I don't know if you want to share your information with the audience so that they can reach out to you if they need an L&D specialist or an HR specialist.
Yes, certainly. You can visit my website, which is www.leadwithsimone. And do note my name has two M's. So leadwithsimone.com. You can email me at info@leadwithsimone.com. I am also here on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on Facebook, on Instagram, and my content information, my Calendly links if you want to connect and organize a meeting for us to talk about your needs. All of those are available on these social media platforms.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. And again, everybody, remember that one on one is also here for you. We have a learning management system. We have a library of 30,000 plus ready made courses in all areas of business. And we also have a content creation team filled with experienced instructional designers. We're here to help you get your learning and development program off the ground and running. So us with Simone, wonderful combination. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. Yeah. All right, Simone, thank you so much again. It was a pleasure having you. And thank you, audience, for being here as well.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate it.